my name is Adari, for everyone who doesn't know, and I work with the Creative Lab 5454. And along my side today, we have Lauren Willie and Tamara Shaya Hoffman from the US Embassy. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Sure. So I'm Lauren, and I'm the cultural attaché at the U.S. Embassy. Thanks so much to 2454 for hosting this very inspiring film. And so let's see, I've been working in foreign affairs for about 10 years. And I started off my career working with some scholarship programs that sent Americans around the world to learn critical languages like Arabic. I learned Portuguese on that program and later learned Arabic. So أهلا وسهلا وشكرا لضيافتكم هذا الفيلم. And then I joined the Foreign Service in 2013, worked in Sudan and Brazil before I came here to the UAE.
Awesome. And Tamara?
Yeah, thanks everyone. It's great to be with you all. I'm Tamara Shaya Hoffman, and I've been working in the film industry for a number of years, particularly before I joined the State Department. So at the age of 9, I had developed really a passion for filmmaking and interviewing, but also had this interest in foreign affairs. Both of my parents are from the Middle East, and that passion followed me into working for the US government. So for the past several years, I've been working for the Department of State, and now I'm posted here at the US Embassy. But previously, before that, I was working in the field of gender empowerment and really focused on highlighting the stories of the US government's work in empowering women. And so it's really just an honor to be here with you all, and I look forward to learning and to talking together.
Amazing. Thank you, Tamara. We look forward to the session as well. So I do see some familiar faces on here. If you would like to introduce yourself and let us know how was your opinion on the movie, what inspired you the most, who was your favorite woman figure. Shall I cherry pick, or does somebody would like to participate?
Yeah, I can go ahead if I will start.
Okay.
Hello,
fine.
everybody. I'm a Creative Lab member from a long time ago. I see some familiar faces as well. So when I was watching the film, there's like something coming up to my mind because I'm Egyptian. So I was thinking about Hatshepsut, the queen in Egypt. That the empowerment for women, it was like, is this a progress reversed? Because the people back then were like, there's accepting the role of a woman in war, in economic and finance, in culture and everything. And there was like no issue about doing that. And all the ministers under her and all the government under her was like something normal. It's not like something strange to her. So why is all this like history is going on with women? Even, I mean, like, I'm proud that the first short films that I've done was for a woman. Although the Deutsche Welle, the German channels that was fundraising, they all pick men films, but I'm the only one that I took like a lady and I made a film about her. It's called So Steadfastness. So this thing is always in my mind. Why? I mean, like, the woman was from back then in ancient civilization were empowerment enough and there was no issue about it. And now we're talking about how women take their rights. That's strange for me.
I think Lauren or Tamara, if you want to answer his question.
Well, I think it's a good observation. I mean, both of my parents are from Baghdad, Iraq, and, you know, same thing. Many of those women were incredibly educated, some of them pioneers in the field of medicine and education and so many other areas. And so I think it's a really good point, Fadi. You know, let's continue to normalize this because we have so many examples of women leaders, women entrepreneurs, women really as pioneers in their field. But, you know, how can we continue to articulate and share those stories. And I think this film has done a really good job of that, because it's important to show that, so that people don't feel, oh, I'm the only one doing this. And particularly, I mean, I think I can say this as a woman of color and as a woman who has Middle Eastern heritage, but also grew up in the States, in the United States, that representation as a woman of color is especially important, and as a woman of Middle Eastern descent. So just agree with your observation, and think it's really important that we capitalize on those stories.
Thank you, Fadi and Tamara, for that. I think we can go ahead and start with the session. And Lauren, I will give the stage to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Azari.
No.
So I would just love to get everybody's impression of the film, or a few of those of you who are in the audience, your impression of the film. And so my first question that I'd like to put forth, and I'll ask Tamara first, and then hopefully a few of you in the audience will also chime in. But what about this film? I mean, what did you think, Tamara? What resonated with you about this film most?
Yeah, I mean, it's so powerful, and I think that I'm going to be reflecting on it for a while now. I think the biggest thing for me is that they were able to showcase a variety of stories. I mean, they were talking to everybody from professional chefs to pilots to medical researchers, and then of course we got an insight into what this female crew was kind of discovering about themselves. I think the biggest takeaway for me, although again I have a lot that I'm kind of reflecting on, is that quote. What would we do if we weren't afraid to fail? And that is something that I've asked myself many, many times throughout my own career. And I've had mentors who've done the same. I think, at least in my own perspective, I think a lot of times I've also kind of limited myself, and I've let fear overwhelm me. And, Beth, the lawyer and anti-human trafficking advocate, she talks about not letting fear overwhelm you. And particularly when you're looking at such an enormous, just an enormous scene like human trafficking that affects so many people. I think that resonates to me for me, because she's fighting for what she believes in, regardless of how difficult or insurmountable that problem might be. And Congressman Jan, she talks about it as well, that a lot of these women are afraid to pursue positions of leadership, or to run for Congress, that they are self-limiting. And she says, you just got to keep persevering. She didn't let, her initial failure stop her from pursuing her dreams. And, here she is now as a role model for other women who want to go into the political space. And then the same with the Navy general, Michelle, the vice chief of Navy operations. And she talks about being that first woman, being that pioneer, and having to be a role model, regardless of maybe not seeing that representation herself. And so all of those things just really inspire me, because I think, at least for me as a woman, and as a woman of color, as a woman with heritage in the Middle East, and also, this perspective growing up in the US, I think it's something that I have to keep reminding myself, just to follow my dreams, but also to encourage others to do the same. So those are just some initial thoughts, but like you, would love to hear other perspectives as well.
Yeah, and I think what you talk about, role models and women venturing into spaces that are traditionally thought to be male, kind of goes to Fadi's point, answering that question, why isn't this normal? And I think, it's women playing certain roles or doing certain jobs still isn't normal, because we have a lot of societies have specific concepts of jobs and space where women and men are traditionally fit in. Are there any other thoughts around the room about, just like what resonated with you? What did you find to be most memorable about this film? I'm so happy to see a number of men in the room. So maybe you can share your thoughts with us as men, what resonated. Maybe you thought about your daughters, maybe you thought about, women that you're mentoring in your profession.
I think if I will go, my favorite part, I had several favorite parts actually. The first one is the lady that was at the gym, and then she had this case where she couldn't work out for a while, and then she found her inspiration again, and just found a way around it. Khamis is also
Oh, yes. Yeah.
yeah, I guess she inspired me because I go to the gym, but then sometimes I quit and I feel like, oh, I don't feel like going to the gym today. Seeing her story really inspired me, and I feel like we can actually, if we're healthy and we don't have anything that's going on, we can easily just go to the gym and work out and be healthy. So that was motivational for me. Also, one of the ladies that I really really liked her attitude and what she said, because she sounded so confident, and I was just like, wow, like what is this attitude? The ballet dancer, when she said, most girls want to be princesses, but I go on stage and I am a princess. That was really like spot on confidence and empowerment, so I really loved that part. Does
That's
anyone else want to say something?
Yes, me.
Okay, go ahead, Mitha.
Hi everyone, it's Metha from Creative Lab 2454. For me, watching this documentary just made me think of all the women who were the firsts. Maybe they did so much that now it's very easy for us, alhamdulillah. So it's just like a shout out for all the first women, especially I think with our industry, the media industry. I'm not sure, I'm not a filmmaker, but then I think it wasn't very easy for women to film or to be a photographer maybe back then. But now, alhamdulillah, it's much easier for us thanks to them.
excellent. Thanks so much, Metha, for sharing. Oh, Shema, please. Yes.
My name, to be honest, Aliazia, but I don't know
Oh,
why it's
sorry.
Shana, my daughter, basically, she's using Zoom, so that's why I guess. I am from 2454. Basically, the video was amazing, and all the stories are great, to be honest. And the the most character I like the chef, because she mentioned something like she was not focusing on the passion in the career. She was encouraging us to think about other areas in our life, because your passion could be your family, could be something else. Because majority of the time, sometimes when we fail at work or in a specific work, we feel disappointed and we feel like we're useless, which is not the truth. We should for sure look for another passion in different areas. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Shema. Sorry, Elias, yeah.
Yes,
Sorry
yeah.
for that. Okay. Do we have any other participation? I think we can go to the next question, Lauren.
Great, excellent. So my next question for you, Tamara, first, and then of course everyone else, is a more technical question about the making of the film. So were there some stylistic techniques in the film that you feel like really helped in the storytelling that happened here? What were some of the technical things? I am not a technical film expert, so happy that we have so many in the room today. And I'm curious to learn, what was it about the shots or anything else technical that I don't know about that really helped tell the story?
Yeah, so first of all, of course, it's a documentary, and certainly, they could have chosen to do a narrative. But I think what I love about documentary is just that kind of rawness that you get from, those true stories. And as you saw, and not every documentary does this, the filmmakers chose to put the camera on themselves as well. And it was an insight into their own stories and really their own realization of what they were learning through this entire journey. And, you know, they were able to do that by interviewing each other and interviewing themselves. And it kind of used a mix of both the traditional interview form, but then also this kind of like intimate close-up camera shots of them just kind of reflecting on what they're learning. And you know, there's a particular scene where one of the filmmakers starts kind of, you know, she gets emotional when she's in the gym, and she's kind of talking about some of her struggles, and, you know, later on is also talking about overcoming her fear of flying. And I think that that's really powerful. I think all of these filmmakers chose to be very vulnerable, and that was intentional, but it made the story more powerful. And I think, you know, they ought to be applauded for that. You know, there's certainly, and many people on this call, they know this already, but obviously there's a choice in the way people decide to film these stories. And another thing that I thought was really powerful is that after they decided to, you know, after they interviewed many of these women, they also captured kind of that raw footage of them, these women talking to the filmmakers. And I just thought it was really beautiful about, you know, there was that quote from the woman who started the nonprofit to promote running for girls. And she just says, you know, you've really made me feel seen. And it was just really powerful to hear even the impact that this film was having on those who they interviewed. And so to me, I just, again, appreciated that kind of raw aspect of the film. It just added to the flavor.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we have a comment down here from Hamda, and she's saying, I'm still getting used to the Zoom camera on my face. So she typed it here. Hamda, do you want to make your comment, or would you like me to read it out loud here? I'll read it out loud for you. Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. So Hamda says that she really liked when they introduced Oprah and how they used animation. So that was another technique that she really appreciated. Are there others in the audience that would like to talk about some of the technical elements that they thought really helped bring out this story?
Yeah, I can. I mean, like, I may like beg to differ. And I have some technical issue even with my film as a scriptwriter, but the good points that Tesha talked about is that you give the space for the interviewer to the persons that you interview to express themselves. So this is a good point. I also in my script I refuse to the narrator to be there and review. But for me, I mean, like, because I'm into documentary and into fiction as well, sometimes, I don't know, for me, it's a taste after all. The beauty of the shots is different. I mean, like, sometimes the raw shots that it's good for something, and sometimes the beautiful frames that you can shoot in a documentary give it a more powerful impact. And I miss that in this film. I mean, like, I wished, and this is not because of women or men, even men, they can have a good frames or good shots. So it's like the beauty of the expression of the frames. I miss that in the film. I wish that it was more beautiful shots.
Well, I always love it when someone begs to differ. Thanks, Patty. Any other thoughts on the technical way they put together this story?
For me, I agree with Hamda. I really liked the animation that was added in the film. To me, like, I don't really watch lots of documentaries, but when documentary comes to my mind, I just think of like raw scenes and like real shots, and not like animation and all of that. So it was new to me and I enjoyed it. I also liked that throughout the movie I was seeing the inspiring women leaders, and then I'm seeing the filmmaker, and then I'm seeing their own thoughts about what's happening. So it was very, it was easy to connect with them and know what they're thinking, how they're feeling. So it was really nice. Okay, I think we can move on to the next question.
Okay, excellent. Thank you all for your participation. So my next question touches a little bit on what Tamara mentioned, and we've been discussing here. Why was it important? My first question is, why was it important that the film crew was all female? how did that affect the film? And then my next question is, what would this film have looked like if it had been made by an all-male film crew or a mixed film crew? So Tamara, do you want to take the first go at that question?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think that a big part of this particular film was, it's focused on empowerment. And so you have 6 women who, by the way, women are historically underrepresented in the film industry. That's not only in representation in terms of what you see on screen or the types of roles that they play, but then also in terms of cinematographers, directors, et cetera. And so I think that in and of itself is, very powerful. But you had this element where, again, they were highlighting themselves in addition to highlighting these stories of these powerful women. And so by nature, that perspective influenced the way that the film was created. And I think that it's, obviously there's different ways that you can produce a film. I think that it's very powerful to have diversity of thought, and you can have, I've worked on films with both men and women production teams. And you certainly can capitalize on other people's talents. But in this particular case, I thought it was very powerful that you had somebody who was shooting, you had somebody who was editing, you had somebody who was, again, doing the director of cinematography and all of these things, telling a story that they thought was important. In terms of your, and I will say, I remember when I was a sophomore in college, I was sitting in a film class, and I think there were 3 of us. There were 3 women in the class. Everybody else was, they were all male. And I think it was a 15 to 20 person class. And I remember being very, very, very intimidated about picking up a camera for the first time. I just did not think I could do it. I hadn't seen a lot of female filmmakers. And again, I was kind of insecure about my own abilities. And I remember I had 2 professors, 1 female, 1 male. They happened to be married, and they sat all the women down, and they said, how many of you are intimidated about taking this class? And all 3 of us raised our hands. And they said, you can do this. You absolutely can do this. And for me, and I think for my colleagues as well, that was such a powerful moment to just have somebody believe in you and say, you can do this. And I think if it wasn't for them, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today. I wouldn't have taken the trajectory that I had. And so I think about just that importance, the importance of representation and the importance of being able to follow your dreams, which clearly these women did, despite the fact that they could have failed. In terms of your other question, again, I have, I'd be open to hear, I'd love to hear actually other people's thoughts as well. But I've been on production teams where it's been, mixed production. I think that especially if you can find somebody who complements your own giftings, that can be very powerful. I've worked with some very, very good male cinematographers and editors, and I think, you can work closely with them to create a story that's very powerful. And so, that's critical too. I would there's nothing wrong with having all male or all female crews. I just think that the more diverse you have, the more diversity there is, or I guess in this case where it was all women, the ability to share stories that are that are not very well represented is really powerful. And so that's my thought. But the beauty of filmmaking is that there's so many different styles, as Fadi was alluding to as well, and there's so many different ways where you can create something that tells an important message. But would love to hear other people's thoughts on how the makeup of a crew can impact the story or even perhaps the perspective.
Yes, Metha?
Just speaking about professors, since Tamara mentioned hers, I think here we have with us Dr. Rachel from UAE University. Do you see her, Adari? Yes, hi.
Yes.
Dr. Rachel? Yeah, I see someone named Dr. Rachel.
Hi, yes, I'm here. One of the things that struck me about the stories of the women making the film, and also the stories that they were hearing, was how much people tended to build each other up. There was a lot of cooperation, both in the stories of the women that they were interviewing, but also between themselves. I thought it was an important message.
Excellent. Yusuf, tell us, what would this film, how do you think that this film would be different if it were an all-male film crew that filmed the film?
Sure, thanks, Lauren. Well, first of all, hi everyone. My name is Yusuf, and I work in the embassy with Lauren, and I also know Tamara as well. Before I start answering Lauren's questions, I'm the only lucky male in a team of 5 females in my office, so that's definitely something impressive. So my salute for every single female watching now this beautiful kind of like virtual engagement just before iftar. To answer your question, Lauren, everyone, so if it was like in all like male film crew, again, I'm not a film director, but I can talk about from experience. I would likely still highlight the female leaders and their journey of empowerment, but it may give a slightly like different perspective based on what's highlighted in the film. For instance, like a female filmmakers may more easily understand right away the impact of the emotional part and thought process of these women, where the males may need to focus more on explaining how they arrived at these emotions and thoughts, since they may not process information the same way of the female directors. So that can be one of the main things I would look at it this way. And that reflects my day-to-day working with 5 beautiful females like you guys.
Thank you, Yusuf. Yeah, that's a really interesting point.
Thanks.
Any more thoughts on the makeup of the film crew?
Yeah, I can also share a point of view. I think that as personality, I mean, like regardless the skin color, religion, anything, I mean, like the opponents, and I always emphasize on SI and EI, social intelligence and emotional intelligence, and cross-cultural as well. So I think those are the factors that would like uh, um, impact the view of, I mean, like working on such kind of film. If anyone, any personality is open to have these EI and SI traits and cross culture, I think they will be like more achievable in any humanitarian case, either women, animal rights, anything. If you have those 3 traits, I think you can be like so close to the subject you are dealing with.
Very interesting. Thank you for your thoughts.
Okay, I think that's all for this question.
Okay. So Adari, how are we doing on time? How many questions more can I ask?
We still have 20 minutes to go.
Okay. Okay, excellent. All right. So my next question is about the role of the media in general in helping promote inclusion, or in hurting inclusion. So one of the main reasons that the film director noted that she created the film is because she wants to correct the way, in her sense it's correct, maybe not for everybody it's correct, but for her it's correct, the image that the media or the story or the narrative that the media tells about women, or how the media define women. So I'd be interested in everyone's perspective, and Tamara, your perspective on how the media does that. Like, as media makers, we're all media makers in the room right now. How does the media define who a woman is? And what are some things that we can all do to maybe tell a more accurate story?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. So certainly the media plays a huge role, not only, again, in the way that women or men are represented, but then certainly also in controlling, what roles women or men can play. And there's a famous actress in the United States, her name is Gina Davis. She helped start something called the Institute on Gender and Media, and CJANE. And what she keeps talking about is that if you can see it, you can be it. And so her whole kind of premise is that she actually got started on this because she started noticing that some of her children's shows represented men, even in the cartoons, more than women. And so she has this organization that really focuses on kind of replacing some of those roles. You know, why can't a woman be you know, the lead or the hero in that particular film? Why can't there be more representation of women as doctors or mathematicians or scientists or what have you? Why can't we have women who are not objectified in these roles? And I think that's it's really important, and particularly for me as somebody who believes in this space, and that this space can powerfully change our culture and change the way that people even grow up to see themselves. I think it's critical. So the role of media in shaping our thoughts cannot be underestimated. And, you know, there's been a lot of research. When I was working at the U.S. Agency for International Development, there was a lot of research that we found where even showing women in a different light and showing men also as part of the solution really helped change the way that people interacted. So for example, we had shows that we supported in Tunisia and also in Uganda that showed women in a different perspective. I think there was even a show that we highlighted, and it was filmed in Jordan, and it was showing a woman as a politician and how these women were navigating their personal lives, but then also their lives as parliamentarians. And then also we were tracking, okay, how does this kind of new idea of seeing a woman as a politician and seeing a person as a politician in that particular culture, how does it change the way that women might view themselves? You know, would they be more likely to run for a position of power in, you know, parliament, for example? And the research all shows that, you know, as if you can combine that kind of cultural impact and showing that representation, and certainly if you can combine that with either a campaign or important conversations, opening that door, that it can be very powerful. And something as well is that it's not just, you know, for women to be opening these doors. Men are a huge part of the solution. We have more male directors, we have more male executives in the film space and many other entertainment spaces that have the power to really open up a lot of doors. And that's why I think males are particularly important as allies, but then, you know, as believing in this goal as well. Not only because it's the right thing to do, but because it then showcases better representation. And you know, I think the more representation we have and the more diversity in these positions, the better. You know, the more we can work together to fight diseases, to fight, you know, violence and all of these types of things. So I think we all have a role to play. You know, all of us come from different family backgrounds, perhaps different educational backgrounds as well. But I think every single one of us contribute to making the world a more equitable place. And each of us have unique talents and gifts that we can work towards achieving that goal. So that's some initial thoughts for me, but would love to hear others' other thoughts as well.
There's a very impressive woman who's the Director General of the Confederation of British Industry. She's the first woman to hold that position, the most senior representative organisation of industry in Britain. Before that, she was actually the Director of Strategy for the British Broadcasting Corporation. So that's the sort of segue link into the relevance to this conversation. However, what she did when she first was appointed to her role in the CBI was research the reasons for success of companies or their failure during the time of crisis in 2008 to 12. And what she found was that the successful companies all had an incredibly diverse board, people from all different backgrounds and also both genders. And the rationale, she was thinking, was that in any given situation, the more ideas that you have around the table, the more likely it is that one of them's going to be right. So the flip side of that was that the more homogenous the boards, you know, the more white males, for example, the less likely it is that you're going to have the right answer to take you through a crisis. And so I just support what you have just said, actually, is that diversity is incredibly important to have around the table and to bring forward in addressing our challenges that we have today.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I would just like to add something on this matter quickly. As Tamara said, but the thing is that my take on that is that not only the quantity or diversity, because it's, I think it's also important the ways that media represent women. So there can be a lot of women, but the ways that they been represented, this is the problem. And this is, I think we have to focus on that, because sometimes women, like, I don't know if like intentionally or not, can help that the representation be wrong, either in all the aspects, in writing, in script writing, I mean, in directing, in even acting, like choosing the roles, if it's like fiction. So there has to be a focus on not only the diversity and how, like, the quantity, but also the way that media represents and what the woman is doing. Again, if there is like the way that it's represented is wrong or something, so they have to, like, I don't know, maybe to fight that back.
Yeah, thanks, Fadi. I think that's a really good point. You know, there's certainly a role that all of us have to take. Who knows who's writing those scripts, you know, for women that perhaps are objectified. And, you know, we all have a role to fight against that. And, you know, I've also seen interviews with certain women who said, this was the only, you know, this was the only role for me, which is sad. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying that we all have an important role to play to making sure that women are, you know, are represented equally as doctors and lawyers and, you know, scientists and leaders and the protagonists in the film, and not just the, you know, objectified woman who is, you know, just the mistress or whatever. So, you know, that's kind of simplifying it, but I take your point, and I think, you know, we all have to kind of come together and fight that.
Okay. I think Meta, she put a really nice question for everyone to think about. Who's your role model? So you guys can think about it and let us know in the comments, or share it with us here if you would like. And yeah, Lauren, if you want to move forward with your questions, feel free.
Sure. Well, so I'll have to say, I joined the U.S. Embassy just like 6 months ago, the U.S. Embassy in Abu Dhabi, and I first met Tamara through a mutual friend, and I noticed in the embassy how much gravitas she has, how she carries herself, and then started working with her to organize this big, huge party that we usually have to celebrate our Independence Day. And she like walked into these meetings and was so organized and made it so clear what everybody was supposed to do, and was so just gentle and effective when it came to following up and make sure we did all of our jobs. So I would say in the US Embassy that Tamara is my role model.
Oh.
Lauren, you're making me blush. I did pay her to say that, but besides the point. No, I'm just kidding. That actually that's very, very kind coming from Lauren, because for any of you who've worked with her, you know how what a good leader she is, and such a kind person, but also very effective at her job. So here we are, just celebrating each other's talents, and I think that's pretty cool. So you're, you know, I think you're #1 fan. You know that already, though.
Okay.
Oh, good. Yusuf is thumbs upping. That's a good sign.
Well, I need to add to this. Lauren is my boss, of course, and I'm so much appreciate all what she does every day. You know, like every one of us now going through very weird timing that we need also support that we needed from like higher management. And me and myself and my team, we always appreciate having somebody like Lauren and even Tamara that can lead us in the embassy. So hats off.
I feel like I also want to share like who is my role model when it comes to work. I always say this to my colleagues and to her herself. Metha, she's my boss, but then like I really do not feel like she's my boss. She feels like she's like our big sister, and so I started with her like one and a half year ago as an intern, and ever since that day she was my supervisor, then my boss, and every day like I'm learning with her. So I tell her all the time like you're someone that I always look up to. So I do like wish that someday I do become like her. So yeah, Smith is my role model.
Thank you, Adari. Shukran.
And Lemis
And
agrees.
what? I didn't hear you. I'm
Lemis
sorry.
agrees as well.
Yes, and I just want to say that I think working with a good team, it helps us as managers. So if it's not for you, يعني, in other words, like you motivate us. So yes, thank you.
Thank you. I think Nadia would like to participate.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I've been on mute because I've had a lot of background noise, so I
Hi,
didn't want to
okay.
disturb. How are you? I am the press attaché at the embassy, so I work very closely with Lauren and Tamara and Yusuf, and with Hamda also. So I just wanted to go back to the discussion that Tamara and Fadi were having about representation in film. One of the things the embassy has been doing has been trying to increase representation of different voices, especially from the Middle East. So one way we've been doing that has been through a script writing workshop that we have run 2 times, and we're planning on doing it this next year also, but it might just be in a virtual format, where we bring script writers from the United States to Abu Dhabi, and we work with a set group of aspiring filmmakers on their scripts. So they submit their script idea, and we work with them over 6 months of back and forth with the script writers who come from California, and they workshop their scripts with them, and they do table readings, and everyone has their input. And I think it's been really useful for the people that have participated, because when they finish the workshop, they walk away with a completed script that has been workshopped 3 times, that has been refined, that has a very definitive story. And these stories are telling the experiences of the region. And these are voices and stories that are not fully represented in Hollywood. And they don't need to be represented in Hollywood. They could be represented here and in the film industry in this region. But the idea is that there needs to be more voices. There needs to be more people that are telling their own stories, no matter what those stories are. I mean, there's been such a diversity of issues that have come up and backgrounds, and people have different situations. It's been really eye-opening, even for me, just to see what people are concerned with and what the issues are that face them. And perhaps Hamda, sorry to put you on the spot, would like to talk a little bit about her participation, because she was really, so impressive in the workshop that we then went on to nominate her for our International Visitor Leadership Program, where she went to the States and she met with different people in the film industry there. So maybe she could tell us a little bit about her experience. The other point of this, of me saying this, is when we put up our call for applications on our social media in the fall, I encourage all of you to participate if you're interested in script writing, if you want to develop your script, to apply. It's free. The program goes over 6 months. The people meet on three different occasions, and we keep it after working hours. So it's usually like a Thursday afternoon, Friday afternoon, Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon, so that everyone can make it. Because everyone, everyone that's a filmmaker also has a full-time job, because there's, you can't really make a living quite yet as a filmmaker on your own. So that's also something that we're trying to help develop, is, filmmaking as an entrepreneurial skill in the UAE.
Thank you, Nadia, for that. I think Hamda did share her experience in the comments. She said, my experience revolved around visiting production companies, universities, film festivals while traveling to 5 states. It was a great experience meeting the other participants, mostly sharing different style of filmmaking by showing each other our work was nice to see. Also, continuing, it was a fun experience. The stories written stem from the region and feel very fresh to the ear that you want to do, that you want to get them produced. The trick is to keep rewriting so you leave with a ready script. Thank you, Hamda, for sharing your experience. Yes, we are proud of you.
We're proud of you, Hamda.
Okay, so I believe we have 3 minutes until we're done with the session. Is there anything else you would like to add, Lauren? I believe you have a workshop that you would like to promote in the coming weeks.
Yes, yeah, I would love to. And I think we conspired to have you show your screen. Is
Yeah.
that right? Okay.
I'm trying to figure that out.
Take your time. I can start talking about it too. So on June 1st at 7 p.m., so June 1st is a Monday after Eid is over, director Lisa Lehmann is going to do an Instagram live workshop on documentary storytelling, which I think is especially relevant to what we've been talking about today. And so it's going to be on our USA in UAE Instagram page at 7 p.m. All you have to do is go there in the app or on the internet to see it. And so Lisa Lehmann has been working on storytelling in documentaries for 25 years. And her whole goal in life is to dismantle stereotypes and build cultural bridges to change the world with documentaries. And so I think that there are probably several people in the room today who maybe share some of those goals. And she is pretty impressive. She has won the Sundance Film Trophy. She's Emmy nominated and is part of the Academy of Motion Pictures Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. So it would be great to have all of you tune into our Instagram page. I think it's going to be a pretty quick 30-minute session to hear what she has to say about storytelling.
Great. Thank you, Lauren, for that. I think as closing remarks, I just want to mention a few of our Creative Lab members who are actually say hi, Fadi, but I also wanted to shed light on the female ones that are actually inspiring. Academies that are actually inspiring and they can be considered as role models. So we have Aisha Zaabi, who's an Emirati director. She's a Creative Lab member and now she works with Majid TV creating content for them. And also the ladies behind Women in Film, which is Malak Mansoura and Rehan Al-Hashimi. They're really amazing and we really are proud of them. Lemis, do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Yes, sorry, I kind of saved this for the last minute. So I have a question for you guys, kind of based on some observations I made from the documentary. I'm wondering whether you guys think that being a female leader or a female pioneer in an industry entails having to make huge sacrifices. So there were a couple of instances in the film that really grabbed me. For example, the producer who was saying that she was on a call while in labor, and there was someone else who had mentioned, yes, the athlete who was risking her health to compete, to do what she wanted to do. So I'm wondering whether these women feel like they need to make these sacrifices to prove themselves because they are women and because maybe they aren't taken as seriously as their male counterparts. Is it something that kind of happens naturally to us when we decide to take on these big roles? So I just wanted to know what you guys thought about that.
Okay, Tamara, if you want to go ahead.
Sure, I can offer some initial thoughts and happy to hear others. You know, I think that every story is so personal. And for me, I definitely, you know, again, as someone with Middle Eastern heritage, often being the only woman who, so I'm on a board of a university, and I've had other positions in which I might be you know, the only person of color or the only woman or the only woman of color. I definitely think that there are times where, you know, at least in my opinion, I've felt like I've had to kind of not only do the job well, but do it, you know, much better than others, even to just kind of have the privilege of being there. And I don't think that's just unique to me. I think other people have experienced that as well. And perhaps it's not just related to gender. It could be, you know, an individual with a disability. It could be an individual with a lower socioeconomic background. I think, you know, that can kind of span the gamut. And, you know, I know for me, I have made the decision that I always want to do my work with excellence, but for me, I also really care deeply about family. And I think in my particular case, I had, when I was in college, I had some friends who were killed at a very young age in a really tragic car accident. So, you know, everyone between 19 and 21 years old. And at that time, I was still very young. I mean, only a sophomore in college, but I was such a workaholic and an overachiever, even at that age. And I still consider myself kind of a recovering perfectionist, although I have my tendencies to still kind of fall back in that. And that experience just impacted me in a way that I realized, you know, it's not just achieving my dreams, it's also about being present and not sacrificing relationships. So that's impacted the way that I see the world. So, you know, I don't have children, but I think if, you know, I do, I'm not going to be on the phone with my boss while I'm giving birth. Sorry, I'm going to be trying to managing that pain. But, you know, I think everybody has to come with their individual choices and their individual perspectives. And, you know, I certainly applaud her for helping to create a network. And Oprah certainly has an international reach and has done some amazing things with her net worth and so on. So, you know, that's her story, and I'm not going to judge her for that. But for me, you know, I always want to come to the table recognizing I may be the only woman, I may be the only woman of color. Let me perform with excellence. Yes, I realize that I may be seen as too young or you know, too much of a woman or too much of a Middle Eastern woman or woman of color, but let me like show up to the table, not limit myself, shoot for the, you know, stars. But at the end of the day, like just think about what the values are that I carry and you know, take that with me. But I think everybody has to kind of decide for themselves what that looks like for them. So that's my experience. I don't know about others.
Thank you for sharing, Tamara. I believe Nadia also has something to share.
That was a mistake, sorry.
Oh, okay.
I have so many thoughts about this all the time. I would also categorize myself as a recovering perfectionist. Something that I would like to share with you all is something that my mom is always telling me, and it's determining what is the right effort, right? So there's perfect, and then there's done, being good. And I think these are all things that the film touched on. And going back to the film, something that I really appreciated is that they covered these women who were venturing into roles that were considered traditionally male. They covered housewives. And in doing that, I think they validated the contributions that women make in both the traditional space, like the dancer, the mom, the beauty queen, and also celebrated the women who were being pioneers and moving into spaces that are traditionally male. And I think that I just want to underscore something that I think was a theme that juxtaposition brought out in the movie, and also that Tamara just said, is that it's really important that we respect everyone's choice and support one another in determining, you know, what is the right path for us. And I see the sacrifice, like the idea of being on the phone while having a child, or, you know, pushing myself so hard athletically that I might die. And for me, that's too much. But I also really respect that and think that, you know, there are people who really go to extremes and make incredible contributions to our society and our global community. So that's something that I really appreciate that they did in the film by celebrating the traditional women in traditional female roles, and also the pioneers.
Lovely. Thank you, Lauren. Does anybody else have anything to add? Okay. Lemis, are you happy with the answers?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay. So if nobody has anything to add, I guess I'm going to start with giving my thank yous to the US Embassy team, Yusuf, Tamara, Lauren, also Nadia. Thank you all for this opportunity. It was really insightful, very empowering and inspirational. So thank you so much. And it was lovely working with you guys. And just stay tuned as we do have more workshops and sessions coming up your way. And make sure you are following us on our social media channels. If you do have any questions or comments that you would like to let us know, you have our Instagram at CreativeLabME or our Creative Lab email. So feel free to do so. And yeah, I guess that's all. To anybody who is celebrating Happy Eid in advance, and stay home, stay safe, and we hope to see you all soon.
Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
Thanks
Thanks,
so much for
everyone.
coming. Nice to meet everybody. Hope to
Thank
see
you,
you soon.
Adali.
Thank you, inshallah.
So nice to meet you all.
Bye.